Tacky Talk time, folks. State Representative Tacky Chan of Quincy is joining us for the February 15th edition of Tacky Talk. How are you, Tacky?
Hey, good afternoon, Joe. We're midway through March, given the fact it's a leap year. It's 29 days. It's a little bit off, but it's just a tad bit off from the middle of the year, the middle of the month. Sorry, I wish it was the middle of the year, so I could tell that's when session closes at the end of July.
Yeah, I can see you're rushing things because you said March and not February.
But it is a March.
Yes.
Okay, Ides of March are on my mind now, right?
Did you survive the big blizzard?
Yeah, again, I refer as the nor'easter head fake, or the New England head fake, depending how you want to put it. Obviously, I think those of us a bit older know that ever since the blizzard of '78, the people who live here have interesting behaviors. One, we obsess over bread and eggs when there's a storm, and you all know what I'm saying. And secondly, is that we take a low risk approach since the blizzard of '78. I mean, I remember as a kid more than once before the modern computer modeling, it snowed like nothing, but he still cut off school. The '78 blizzard really has changed our behavior in so many levels, and it's almost like generational. It's like your mom and dad bought like eggs and milk in a panic, and you do too. So it's something. If you don't live here and like you will live here for the first time, even people from snowier states like Minnesota or whatever, and I see our behavior in grocery stores and eggs, bread, and milk, I always get like, what's wrong with you people situation? I'm like, well, it's a bit of a story from 1978.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, for folks who don't know, people were housebound. You could not drive. There was a ban on driving, and all the stores ran out of everything.
Yeah, and regretfully, people actually did die, on 128 from being snowed in. And those remember, and I was very young when that happened, obviously. I do remember the snow and waiting my dad to come home and all that. But the peninsulas became islands for like over a week.
Yeah, exactly. And it happened again this past time, but not nearly to that extent. There was just some very minor flooding.
Well, the roads are different now, right? The
Yeah.
drainage is different. And a lot of weatherization has changed since the blizzard of '78. But we're also on the coastline. Climate change is a real thing if you live along the water, as we say over and over again. And the defenses to our belt post '78, are being tested, in the 21st century regarding modern climate change and the more severe of the storm. And of course, there's a degree of development, right? Since '78, there's been greater development in dense urban areas, not just Quincy, but throughout the coastline on denser urban, which changes the sponges, like you referred to, open space, creates opportunity for water to be absorbed by the ground, as opposed to be, on concrete going into storm drains. So, there's been a lot of things different, from 1970. It was 45 years now.
So, yeah, 46, and yeah.
The 46 years. So, it's a whole different environment we live in on so many different levels, on a big global level regarding our climate, but also, at the local level regarding the development, of not just Quincy, but all urban areas.
Yeah, Marina Bay was not there in 1978.
No, there wasn't. I remember that was on Marshland too. And then you didn't have High Point. You didn't have Granite Links. You didn't have the modern downtown that we're now developing and impact on Town Brook. Even in the West Quincy areas, I know a lot of homes been there a long time. But he had also different on and off ramps and development along the expressway. Some have stayed, some have gone. And obviously you have more multi-family homes built throughout the city. There isn't a neighborhood that doesn't have, well, that's not true. Most neighborhoods, have some multi-family units.
Yep, absolutely. It looks like the work on the seawalls did its job out on Howe's Neck, though.
Yeah, I mean, the city did a great job on those seawalls. There was some state money that went into this, by the way. Don't tend to forget that. There a lot of hodgepodge patchwork grants, as well as delegation voting for bond monies, as well as cash, for seawall defenses up and down the coastline. And obviously city, investment as well. So, I remember going to those community meetings about how they want to build these seawalls, how high did it really need to be, and it's a big project because you don't have a good foundation under the seawall, then the whole thing is kind of pointless.
Yeah, exactly. It just gets undermined by the ocean, and there goes your money literally out to sea.
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter how tall you build it. If the
Right.
bottom isn't good, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's like the foundation on your house.
And also patching the gaps in the walls. They did a lot of patching as well in the wall areas, so there's no seepage. And of course, I talked to the DCR about coastal defenses in general. Things like sand dunes, seagrass obviously does not apply to every part of Quincy coastline. But throughout the Massachusetts coastline, particularly more than some of the natural beaches, natural erosion and human development is taking away seagrass and sand dunes that are there to naturally there to provide some coastal defenses.
Mhm. Absolutely. Even the even the governor had taken in by the forecast. She had folks stay home and did her usual stay off the road speech.
Well, which is funny because we had a couple of nor'easters already that I was scratching my head. We should have called a state emergency for, given the wind and the severeness of the rain, even though it wasn't snow. Western Mass got whacked a little harder than we did on snow and some of the other past storms. So it was kind of like interesting how they pick and choose their options. And I remember Governor Patrick's first snowstorm, he completely misread that one. And he himself was trapped in traffic trying to get from Boston to Milton for many hours. And he learned this lesson on the road about why we have state of emergencies. So, but,
Baptism by fire or snow.
well, it's when you're experiencing yourself, you're like, oh, yeah, I'm the one that gets to decide whether or not we should clear the roads for travel.
Right.
When you're
Right,
stuck in yourself stuck in traffic for a long time in the midst of a snowstorm that you as the governor probably should did something about earlier today. I mean, there's a lesson to be learned there. I was surprised how early was the governor's response at 3 p.m. Generally, they wait until the evening forecast
Yeah.
to do that. Many schools also wait for the evening forecast, but a lot of school districts follow the governor's lead. So I was surprised by the 3 p.m. report. The
Likewise.
storm was still tough on the coastline. I mean, stuff was blowing sideways at my house. I'm sure a lot of people living along the water have the same feel I did. When the gusts came up, everything was blowing sideways. So, obviously, there was I saw a car in snows with Vermont license plates yesterday and New Hampshire plates, but people coming in from the South Coast, also had much more snow than we did, much more slicker. So again, it's typical New England weather, right? You don't know what's going to be like. But generally, again, state emergency generally occurs after the 6 p.m. forecast. I was a little surprised it was a 3 p.m.
Yeah. Likewise, Quincy schools canceled at like 3 o'clock Monday afternoon, along with the other ones. So everybody was kind of jumping the gun.
Yeah, and just so you all know, just because the state was closed, doesn't mean I wasn't working. We pivoted everything to virtual meetings. So the days of the type of rescheduling because of the not being in person opportunity because of weather events, is gone. I mean, those days are gone. Massive pivot to all virtual meetings this week in response to the snow. And again, these are things that we learned during COVID that are now going to be with us indefinitely.
Yeah. So speaking of state emergency, sad to see that FEMA denied the governor's request for emergency aid up on was it the Leominster area? They had that severe flooding.
Yeah, I mean, you all seen footage. If you haven't, you definitely should. It's shockingly frightening. And this is our complaint in FEMA in Massachusetts all the time. We pay a lot of flood insurance to FEMA as if you have a mortgage on your home in a flood zone, but we get nothing back. But you look down south with homes built that should not be built, frankly, in flood zones, and they get money to rebuild the homes. And this disparity of FEMA's behavior on this type of grant program is really baffling in my mind.
Yeah, and it raises concerns that, God forbid if something like that happened here, would also not receive FEMA assistance.
Yeah, we didn't get that much from the 2017 storm.
Yeah.
Smacked around pretty well in the second one that winter. And we didn't get a whole lot from FEMA, if I remember correctly. And
Mm.
um, and then we pay in, but we're not getting out. But you look down in the deep south, it's like they get smashed all the time in places they shouldn't be, and
Which we're paying for. Yeah.
what you're paying for up here. And I mean, people build homes on rivers that shift. Rivers still shift naturally. And down in those parts, when you get into like the Mississippi, lower Mississippi basin, those rivers do shift. And people build homes in the shifting region and covered by FEMA, which I find baffling.
Hmm.
The place we should look next is Montpelier. You may remember that the Montpelier was basically like 8 feet underwater, the capital of Vermont.
Yes, that's right. There was impacts from a hurricane, I think, that did that.
Yeah, and it just kept on going because the brooks and rivers were so overflowed that they just wouldn't stop for like a week. And remember those videos of homes along a riverfront just falling in because there was never seen that level of water. So we'll see if I don't know what's the story there, but I think that's a good follow-up to find out if the Montpelier got any FEMA money.
Yeah.
It was worse than Lunenburg, but still, if they get denied, I mean, what's going on down in DC?
Yeah, I've talked to Congressman Lynch about this in the past and, didn't get a lot of concrete answers. It sounds like FEMA's kind of just this independent rogue agency that has no oversight and can do what they want.
Well, apparently, if it's not a hurricane, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
I mean, those of us that live in the snow areas, and I know on the east coast of Massachusetts is less snowier than the west side of Massachusetts, right? Or north of Massachusetts. I mean, the coastlines are a little bit different in the weather. But I mean, is it just you have to be in like a category 2 hurricane zone to get money? I mean,
Right.
that's very baffling.
So yeah, it has implications too for your homeowner's insurance. I know that, they use different standards based on the severity of the storm. If it's a named storm, what the response is to it. So it has all kinds of insurance implications too.
Well, you also got like the Maui fires.
Right.
They're up to neck in bureaucratic red tape, out in Hawaii. I watched a short article about this and on CNBC the other day, it just happened to be on, and they were talking about the fact that, state of Hawaii is having all kinds of challenges on getting FEMA money. And, also distribution of aid because it's the islands, right? It's a whole different ecosystem over there in Hawaii regarding transport of goods and services. And, the whole basic community was wiped out
Yes.
in the fire. And the, you know, you got nowhere to live. I mean, it's crazy. And it's still missing people. They can't find bodies, tragically. So, sometimes we forget, Hawaii is, part of the country and it's so far away that, we see a blip on the news and then we forget about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's over 100 people died. Like you say, people lost homes, businesses, government buildings, schools. And, they think they just got the kids back to school not too long ago. So it's going to be years of rebuilding.
Yeah, and there's also a tourism region.
Right.
So, obviously you don't have the amenities. I mean, tourists can't come. I mean, it's just common sense. Remember the massive tsunamis down in Southeast Asia?
Mhm.
I was actually there in 2012, a couple of years after those tsunamis, and they just, I mean, I was in Phuket. It was on my mom's bucket list trip, so to speak, and they just didn't bother, like, because it's a totally different world out there. They just didn't bother removing debris. They just pushed it aside.
Really?
Cleared the roads, pushed the debris aside, rebuilt on places where it was stable, and just basically bulldozer over stuff. And then because it's literally like an 80% tourism driven business, so it was crucial for the government and the private industry to get themselves back into tourist ready, like get the beaches cleaned out, rebuild or build brand new hotels and facilities, push the debris aside. I'm sure if you visit, you can still probably find it off the road. Like just push it off the road.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Yeah, I know I visited Jamaica many years ago, soon after they had a hurricane, and they did the same thing. It was still the evidence was still there.
Yeah, yeah. The industry, their industries are so different from us, the way the economies are set up. Time is of an essence to tell people it's okay and safe to come visit and spend money there, right? So, here obviously people, much more conscientious about the need to try to get everything cleaned up and out. But again, we also live in a different place.
True. Yeah. Speaking of, I was reading an article, you might have seen it too, about the vacancy in Boston commercial space and how that's impacting state revenue.
Well, yeah, it's impacting everybody.
Yeah.
I, I am at the State House. I mean, downtown Crossing, near the financial district. I've talked multiple times about a lot of the nicer restaurants are not open for lunch. Even the mid-tier restaurants are not open for lunch. Generally, more takeout places, small businesses that close at 6 p.m. They don't do the food day. They just do breakfast and lunch are open. Some of the businesses that were there pre-COVID are still empty storefronts.
Mhm.
So yeah, it is quite devastating, this hybrid work situation on the businesses that rely on business people to come in. Tourism isn't enough to make up the difference on a daily basis. And it's also businesses like dry cleaning, the small wine shop, the small, bodega type situation that you can find scattered around downtown and area in the financial district. And, Emerson students and Suffolk students do provide a lot of support. However, you still have that massive lack of white collar workers, being there 5 days a week,
Right.
consuming during the day, and then you do after hours. They're not there to do that. I think Rebecca's Cafe, even on One Beacon Street, under there, I think is gone. I was hoping it was going to reopen. It was actually a good, quiet spot to meet people. Large space, plenty of distance from each other, and you can, get some coffee and tea and sandwich or whatever, and then, have a quiet meeting spot that's not inside the building. I think that's gone. So yeah, it's pretty rough, and it impacts sales tax, impacts meals tax, impacts how the city of Boston also does it. They get 0.75% of the meals tax as well. And it's going to change the valuations of property for the city of Boston next time they do their assessments. If there's nobody there and people giving up the leases, at some point it's going to result in a shift in assessments of commercial real estate.
Right.
And it's going to be tough. Other places like New York and San Francisco, I know San Francisco's a mess. We all read about it. There is a bit of a comeback. I'm not saying it's like 100% full, but there is some kind of comeback. I'm not seeing the same thing happening in Boston.
What do you attribute that to, Tacky?
I think it's the geographical issues, and we're not tied to it. Like, you have to show up at Wall Street at some point, right? And a lot of you have to show up in the theater district at some point. Broadway is not something you can stream,
Right.
right? You still have to go, and a lot of their, all their athletic centers are in the city areas.
Mhm.
Right, Madison Square Garden, all that stuff is, in city. They have the big concerts. They have a lot. Again, tourism is different in those big cities than Boston, and also international city. You still have to do business, in that way. I mean, all the big consulates are there, the UN's there. It's just such a different ecosystem, and like Massachusetts, people are leaving the state to move to places like Florida or warmer climates, permanently or semi-permanently. But the same thing up here. The housing market isn't reflecting a massive glut of new homes.
Right.
People with means are the ones that are leaving. Obviously, people selling their homes, are moving to a new home, or they're retiring. We all know this. I mean, people sell their home and retire to nicer climates, or lower tax locations, because you should. I mean, why not, right? I mean, that's what you want, do it when you retire. But I just think that if you have a massive excess of people, you should have a massive glut of rental homes or rental apartments, as well as, houses and condos and everything else, glutting and flooding the market. And that's not happening in Massachusetts and New York, despite what everyone says about the statistics. And I always bring this up to people, like, yeah, people are leaving. So where's the glut in the housing market?
Right. That's a good point. Yeah. I wonder if at some point in the future, some of the commercial space that is vacant could be transformed into residential space to help with the housing crisis.
Very expensive to do that. And the reason is because commercial space and residential space have different standards. So you got to put separate kitchen, separate bathroom, office spaces don't have kitchens, the cubicles, the open space.
Right.
You have a whole access point because you have centralized elevators.
Mhm.
Um, it's a lot of office space isn't like people have this vision of these office spaces being like little cubby holes of their own suites, like it's a small suite of like 1,200 feet.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can find them actually in condos that's been converted to offices, which
Mhm.
does happen. It was happening at one point when people weren't living in the city and office space was more valuable. However, you got to convert this, wide open space, which cubicles, into living. I mean, the weight is different alone on appliances, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you have to build each one has its HVAC system. Each one needs its own water system. They have to subdivide the whole thing out, and you got to put up permanent walls. I mean, you're not going to put out paper thin
Right.
walls. Then you have individual locking systems, and everybody needs their own electrical systems and different circuit breakers.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
you rewire the whole building. It's I love it when Mirabeau talks about that, but I mean, just the idea of rebuilding the electrical system, right? Every unit's going to have its own circuit breakers.
Yeah. Probably when you run the numbers, it's probably cheaper to tear it down and build new.
Yeah, plumbing. You have to
Mhm.
put how much new plumbing through the building? Because you only have like a small number of bathrooms and a floor. It's not like,
Yeah.
you have to like build new walls, add new bathrooms. It's when you're doing something that's like that big, it's not like the Schuster building out in North Quincy. Was a small factory complex that's essentially 3 stories when they converted to condos. And they didn't convert the whole thing to condos. It's just the upper floors. First floor was Suffolk Community Health Center.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And it was an
Yeah.
open
Well,
space.
yeah, that's what we're seeing with the new developments that are proposed, right? It's combination, ground floor retail and then upper floor residential. So it's designed that way.
Yeah. But those are old factory buildings, right? Even the Central Middle School, I know
Yep.
that was a very costly project because they kept the brick frame up and
Yes.
reinforced steel from wood. Still, I mean, you still had kind of like the plumbing, electrical systems, and everything. While it was ancient, you had to gut it all anyway, and just
Right. I remember when they did that, and yeah, it was just a skeleton that was standing there.
yeah. They try to do that with like a downtown building in Boston that's 15 stories.
Yeah.
It's like a different conversation,
Right.
right? It's one thing where you have 3 or 4 stories, or you need to gut the building anyway in the case of
Mhm.
Central. But you got a 15-story building and, you know, 20,000 square feet or whatever per floor. It's like building a hotel situation. You have to have all these things that are different. Smaller development projects and old industrial buildings are significantly easier. You don't mind having that 15-foot high ceiling.
Mhm.
A lot of old schools in Quincy have these massively tall
Mhm.
ceilings.
Yep.
You don't have that. You have a whole different situation regarding 15-story tall and higher office complexes.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it's uncharted territory, so we'll see what happens. I wonder if the exodus from Boston commercial would benefit cities like Quincy, where it might be cheaper to do business and develop a smaller complex for your business.
Well, what it does is people that work from home in those
Right.
communities, they're going to still eat up those local parking spaces. So, like the Quincy downtown is obviously now high rises, and people are not leaving home, so they consume the local parking spaces. Secondly, if you move to like a smaller community, local businesses, particularly places that are restaurants, would um, have more service deliveries
Mhm.
because people may not have time to make lunch at home and they want to buy a pizza or a sandwich or a number of things. Maybe they'll come out and pick it up or have it delivered. So it keeps Uber Eats and other online platforms active where you make the phone call and they have to hire delivery service, which actually creates a higher cost for those restaurants
Mhm.
because they
They
don't
pay for
know.
that, right? Yeah,
Yeah, and they don't normally use takeout containers at the level. That was
that's a
actually an interesting thing when I was in Plymouth on a listening tour of my former chair, Sue Moran, the senator from Barnstable. And that was actually one of the things that was brought up really quickly by the restaurants. They're like, we're small businesses. We never really open for lunch. And even then at night, we don't do that much takeout. Now they're paying through the nose for plastic And they couldn't get at the time they couldn't get even ketchup packets, right? The whole thing was insane on supply chain,
Yeah.
and you couldn't provide all the necessary additional things you would want on a takeout because they literally didn't exist. So
Interesting. You would never think of that. Yeah, but of course, makes perfect sense.
yeah, because people expect, buy French fries, you expect ketchup. So the other problem was the cost, and cost of durable goods on takeout containers and so forth are not gone down. I mean, the inflation has kept everything up, but you're not going to see massive deflation on products. It's going to be a price reduction, but it won't be so dramatic that the savings can be passed on to consumers easily.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's kind of, if you're like in an office complex restaurant, you're in trouble. If you're like a restaurant in like an apartment building, people are going to be probably doing more business than normal. It's really inequitable to explain because everything's apple and oranges. So in the suburban community, it's very different if you're working from home. And again, also like impacts the parking, in those urban areas where people are never leaving home to go to work.
Right.
So
Yeah, exactly.
this will keep shaking out. I'm sure there'll be more studies and economist studies and things like that during the second half of this year to see the economic impact and surveying big corporations about what's going on. And
Mhm.
I think you've seen the tech industry is laying off tons of people again. And some companies are saying show up or get fired
Mhm.
because particularly in that industry where you're having massive layoffs, the technology industry is kind of like, huh, you're not sure for work. There's a whole bunch of people that are looking for jobs right now.
Yeah, it's so true. So yeah, free market enterprise rules, right?
Yeah, I think in that sector, particularly the tech sector, they had a massive hiring during COVID. They got fat and happy, so to speak, and now that there's an adjustment in the economy, they're now in trim down mode. This is how capitalism works. You need people when you have high demand. You don't need people when the demand goes down. It's very simple. And so those industries, people getting forced back to the office sooner is most likely going to be the industries that are having layoffs currently.
Mhm, mhm. Have you had a chance at all, Taki, to look at the governor's municipal reform package proposal?
No.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah, guys, I'm very straightforward. Yes and no answers to certain things.
I appreciate that.
I'm,
I know it's still
I'm,
early in the whole budget process.
yeah, I'm not going to, honestly, this stuff I don't worry about until the committee actually has a chance to vet the whole thing. I'm more interested once the committees actually vet their bills, then I'll go and take a peek at what's going on
No,
because
it makes sense. It's your time better spent that way, of course. Yeah.
yeah, it's a waste of my time to look, guys, this is how it works with us in the legislature, right? It's if I get a governor's bill, great, I can stare and break it apart and study it. However, the committee that actually looks at said bill is the one that really breaks it apart and studies it. Once the committee makes a decision on a redraft, to release summaries and additional supported documentation for me and my staff to look at as it heads on to whatever next stage committee. Generally, it would be Ways and Means. Ways and Means will also do another review and then make tweaks against the committee one if there's new information appears or they find out something was but wasn't or wasn't and was. And then they'll make an adjustment of Ways and Means and we'll review the Ways and Means version. And when it hits the floor, amendments pop up. And then we talk to the committee chairs and staffs and find out what are the stuff on amendments. And then the individual reps will start sending out summaries of their own amendments.
Mhm.
So you can look at that stuff. But stage one on bills, it is the committee's responsibility to go at it first. And then the rest of us will review after committee reports. So in my situation on a municipal bill, initially they had a false start about this alcohol license. Anybody can have a license scenario.
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah, where the press release, we talked about this earlier, right? Someone's asleep at the switch. We talked about this last time it happened.
Yes.
Actually, after it happened that same week, someone was falling asleep at the switch and didn't have the right speech for the governor, lieutenant governor at Mass Municipal because it wasn't in the bill. Then we got the bill, over the weekend and then got the call like, it's not there. And we're like, well, they said it was there, but it's not there. And
Right.
Chairman of
Yeah.
the committee oversees alcohol licensing and the policies around alcohol. So I was like, well, it's not there. My part's done.
Yeah, that was a big oops. Yeah.
Yeah, and Mackie doesn't have to deal with it now. Uh, so obviously, if there's things that pop up that's not in the bill that people have, ideas about, right? Phone calls will be made to other chairs like, hey, I heard this. Have you heard about this? Some kind of story. Right? So the resources are there in the building with different chairs, and chairs can engage other chairs. Or I never seen this. Have you seen it before?
Yeah. So it's all about communication.
Agreed. It is a
Yeah.
big part of our lives, and uh, also how we people under this conception that I know every single bill that comes out. Right? There's 5,000 of these things. I know a lot of stuff, but the expectation is that I can know 5,000 bills. It's just unrealistic.
Sure. Yeah. There's a lot coming up locally. Believe it or not, this month, right? We've got Lunar New Year. We've got Winterfest celebration. There's a presidential primary not too far away as well.
Yeah, the next few weeks there's a lot going on. 恭喜發財，新年快樂，恭喜發財 is View the Dragon came around February 10th, and like I said, it's a lot of family time in the first few days, and then most celebrations occur afterwards. And Queen Jay's Resources has been hosting this event for not the entire length of the event. This was hosted by the Old Committee of Refugees and Immigrants, but it's been many, many, many decades now.
Yeah, this is the 36th annual.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, they tweak it every year, and it's a great place for people to spend an hour or so and visit vendors, eat wonderful food, and watch performances. Regretfully, I will not be there this year. I missed a couple. Last time was a major fever during 2020 February, but I'll be away next week, school vacation week. With getting some warmth, and hopefully, as you can hear from my throat, resolve this dry cough. I'm now convinced that this isn't a cold anymore. It's just this very dry weather, and the temperature shifts is causing this dryness in the back of my throat. So we're going to head place a bit warmer with some more humidity. I can't believe I'm saying that. I've reached that age. To see if I can get some rejuvenation, because once we hit March 1st, it's going to be insane.
Sure. Yeah.
In the building. So I anticipate it's going to be very, very busy. We may not be in session. There's no hearings, but a lot of movement's going to occur behind the scenes and conversations and meetings. And of course, Winterfest. City's done a great job at the Adams Park in front of City Hall, and crowds and crowds of people go through there. And people should plan their driving through the center of the city around that event. But the city does an incredible job on that. Presidential primary may be quite muted on Super Tuesday. There's really just one candidate for the Democratic Party in the stage, and Biden has pretty much demonstrated that they consolidated around him as the incumbent president. Frankly, Nikki Haley needs to blow the doors out on Super Tuesday. Well, she has to win South Carolina, her home state. I'm not optimistic, as you can hear. Trump is going to probably blow the doors off of her in South Carolina. And I just don't see her recovering with any momentum if she doesn't win South Carolina. Big win, not just a win, big win. To go with some momentum Super Tuesday. If she doesn't come up with a huge win in South Carolina, Trump's going to demolish her, like just absolutely demolish her in the Republican primary Super Tuesday. And I think turnout will be low in both political parties because it's a foregone conclusion scenario.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but true for sure. But it's still, the options are there for early voting, mail-in voting. It's easier than ever to vote now.
Yeah, everyone should have got a little postcard from the Secretary of State's office already, allowing to do mail-in ballots for the presidential primary in the 4th, as well as the September primary and the November final. You can choose which ones you want. It has to be back, I believe, February 29th. If you decide to get ballots later on, you can still apply on down the road to get a ballot for a primary and whatnot, the forms will be online at City Hall, or go to City Hall, or you call us, we'll mail you a form. It's clerk's office very cooperative. My office is happy to put things in the mail for you. Even if you feel you can show up on the 4th, don't feel like you can't apply for mail-in ballot for the fall.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yep. Anything else, Tacky? I know you're going to get going a little earlier today.
Not too much else is going on, I think.
I saw the House Asian Caucus had an event earlier this week.
Yeah, we were, we had a meeting with Taiwanese students about universal basic income. So that was an interesting conversation as part of an educational exchange program, again, post-COVID-ish situation where students are traveling to different schools. So that was pretty good. And we had Quincy High School students come in to talk. That was part of this. I didn't even know what it's called. It's a business education forum. Presentations, and it was great seeing students in the State House. I really missed it, and the whole day blew up because my schedule got screwed up. So it was a Monday of tacky scheduling chaos. And it worked out. It was fun. Actually, I enjoyed the chaos, believe it or not. The whole thing got exploded, and I'm like, this is fun. Staff wasn't happy, but I was. And then the Massachusetts Asian American Pacific Islander Commission had a swearing in of new commissioners with Treasurer Goldberg, and House Asian Caucus members were there. And then we're kind of in a situation of watching for people who are not going to run for election. I'm running for election. Bruce Ayers is. Speaker Ron Mariano is. Senator John Keenan is. So clearly the delegation, will be running around collecting signatures for our nomination papers soon. So obviously we'd like to get on the ballot. But we're watching around the state other colleagues. In the House, we're up to 11 members not returning.
Wow.
Many of those folks are in leadership. Some are running for other offices, like the Sue Moran seat, my friend Sue Moran, the Plymouth to Barnstable Senate seat. 2 reps are going to run for that seat so far. Mark Pacheco, who is also leaving, senator. I've known many years out of the Taunton area. May or may not drive some representatives to run for that seat. And then we're waiting to see if any county officials leave, and if any reps, senators also decide to pursue other offices elsewhere.
Mhm.
So there's still a lot of time for State House to change. And by my count, in the House, we have a second leader position opening up, a floor leader position opening up, chair of education, chair of veterans, chair of a labor and workforce. We have a vice chair of natural resources, vice chair of rules, vice chair of post audit. So we have quite a few leadership positions opening up. And then some folks that were kind of like speculating on leaving have announced for running for re-election.
Okay.
But things can change. I saw folks literally change their mind from like a Sunday to like a Wednesday. Whether they're going to run again.
Well, it's a lot of factors, I'm sure, come into play. They speak with their families. That has some influence, I'm sure, as well, and other personal factors that we don't know about.
Well, you're correct. The biggest factor is personal life, right? I talk about quality of life a lot in this game. Paying for college tuition is a big deal. Folks that have second businesses, second jobs besides the State House job, sometimes have to prioritize. I've seen this happen a lot, actually, where prioritization's changed, where their business is taking a higher focus, it makes more money, family issues come first. You don't want to drive 3 hours to the State House, even though we have virtual today. And those of us, like your life knows that, going to the supermarket can be a hassle for some folks.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can get stopped, and ask questions, and I'm always very polite and try to answer people's questions. Sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're not, and have a conversation, and keep a business card or 2 on me, and have people call the office or follow up by email. When I'm out in public. Some folks that can be very grinding. That you're at your kids' little league game, and people are on you about something they're angry about, and this can really grind some families as well as electeds.
Yeah.
So, I always advise folks when I go to talk about how to lobby. Believe it or not, I get invited to various groups. I tell folks be very respectful at time of any elected, doesn't matter what office they hold, particularly at family events, especially at family events, because those are the moments that nobody gets back. So, you're having a birthday party for your mom and you see elected. I mean, you want to say hi quick, but don't bog them down for like a 30-minute complaint session. Right. Kind of catch up on a different time, take a card and let them enjoy their mom's birthday party. Right. So you'd be surprised how inconsiderate it can be for some folks. And like I said, everybody's different and everybody has different tolerances for this that are elected. And every district's different too, on how much constituents are chasing people down. So, I want to wish well, some of my friends that I came in office with, Denise Garlick from Needham, who chairs education, is not running again. She's my classmate from 2011. Paul Schmid from Westport chairs agriculture, and he's actually a member of the House Asian Caucus, another person that was elected with that year too. So, from 2011, a whole lot has changed, and it's going to continue to change. But your Quincy delegation will still be here.
All right, holding true. Time to get out your contact information. Speaking of getting you messages, Tacky.
Sure, 617-722-2370. 617-722-2370 is the phone number. It is Representative Paracella's phone line, because the chair of that committee, economic development, runs the suite. So you have to wait a little bit to get to my part of the prompts. If the person at the front desk has a multiple phone line situation, obviously you go to the auto system. The person can't pick up in time. It was a busy day. tacky.chan@mahouse.gov, tackey.chan at mahouse.gov. You can find me there. Email's been much more quieter, but in about 4 weeks, we're closing the budget. It's going to flood. Obviously, you can reach us at, I don't encourage it, but you can see us on social media at X at Tacky Chan, as well as State Representative Tacky Chan Facebook. I don't encourage Facebook or Twitter messages. It's just, again, it's direct contact back by email is the preferable way to go, or phone calls is the preferable way. TackyChan.org. People actually use that website. I do get the forms filled out and go straight to my email box at the State House. Please do fill out all the contact parts, please, so I can call you back and find you. But yeah, no, people actually use that website. And of course, melegislature.gov is this legislature's website. You can go find your bills as well as watch what's going on with us in sessions and public hearings. Right now, the clerk is still reading reports in. I was in informal session on Monday, reading Lunar New Year recognition, and I got a peek into the tin, and there's a lot of stuff in the tin. So be patient on the website. We're being patient at our level, waiting for our computer systems to update on bill actions. And of course, you can join us on QATV, whether it be with Joe or Mark, and obviously with Joe more.
Just by default.
Well, actually, I was surprised. Some of the high school students I saw on Monday told me that their parents and their other relatives actually listen to us.
Oh, wow. Oh, well, thank you for that.
Yeah, big thank you for those folks. I won't name the kids' names, but your kids and your nephews and nieces and so forth. So, thank you for you to listening, and had a great time with your family members on Monday. So I'm glad to hear that we do have an audience.
It's not just our families watching. That's nice.
Yeah, if we were dependent on ratings to stick around, I'm not sure how that would go for either one of us in our jobs.
Yeah, I think we would need second jobs.
Yes, that'd be very true.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening. And of course, if you enjoy us, drop Joe a line. Most definitely drop Joe a line. And let us know, what you're thinking, and also give us some feedback. And since Joe's a host, that's why you drop Joe a line.
That's fine. I'm happy to correspond with folks. I'd love to hear from them. Absolutely. I want to wish you a very happy, safe, restful time off, Tacky.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Hopefully, again, this thing in my throat will clear up with the change, and I'll see you probably before leap day hits.
That's right. It's an extra day in February this year. So okay, we'll catch up one more time this month. Thanks again.
Take care, Joe.